It don't take long to tell the truth.
No.
Right. All right, so what we're talking about today is we're talking about the importance of working a program and when you're in recovery, of having some sort of system of principles and accountability to work through. But specifically, we're going to talk about what it means for a Christian, someone who believes in Jesus, to work the 12 steps. And the reason why we're talking specifically about this is because we know that there's a lot of people in the Christian community that feel like they don't have to, or they have something against the 12 steps. Maybe it's something against the concept of calling yourself an alcoholic or continuing to call yourself an addict when you've been set free and relieved of the obsession, and around a lot of things. So what I wanted to do today was to really let's lay out the connection and how these two really lifestyles work together, right? And so when we look at the 12 steps, we know that comes from the Oxford group. It was established in the 30s, right? And they're the ones who began the work of the 12 steps. And Bill W. kind of takes it, formalizes it, and adds a couple more to create the 12. But it was birthed from a Christian organization, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion too, right? Yeah. But it's accepting of anyone and everyone that is willing to surrender their life to a God of their understanding, right? So, but that act of submission, that I'm not in control, that I can't do that my best thinking got me right where I was, right? Or my best ability. Right. So when you look at that, and I think sometimes let's face it, when you first come into the rooms of AA or any other recovery process, right? Mm-hmm. To look in a mirror, it's hard sometimes to just look at yourself, right? So to start putting a heavy perspective or burden on a relationship with God at that point in time is, that's a lot to ask.
Right.
Yeah. So from
you don't know yourself, how are you going to know your God?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So I think a lot of that, it starts from there, and we get to work in the steps, and we get to going through the process, and we keep that kind of program step mindset rather than a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And really when you're 12-7 and really getting out there, it's like, what are you sharing? Are you sharing, hey, I completed 12 steps, or are you living a life that's modeling freedom and true peace and true serenity? And that's not calling anybody out on anything. Yeah. But it's just that process. It's like, what does your recovery look like? Is it a program, or is it a process that's moved you towards a lifestyle? Right. So 12 steps is referred to as a program of action. Yep. And Christianity is actually, in the beginning of Christianity, before it became formalized, was referred to as the way. Yeah. This was just how we live. We live this way because this guy said he was going to come back. You killed him, and then he came back. And so now we just live differently because that happened, and we know it is true. And so it wasn't they had a whole community, a whole culture that was built around this revelation that Jesus was the Christ, and what he did set everybody free, right? So the concept of a program of action, of Christianity being a way to live, right, can sometimes get missed, I think. And so when we're talking about the value of having 12 steps as a Christian, for me personally, what the marriage of those two have done, right, is here's this framework in which I can see and understand God. But then here's this framework where I can see and understand myself, right? And how I have these false interpretations of even who's God, right? Or the people around me, right? To start to be able to kind of work through that process. And so for you, that was what you did, right? I mean, you went into 12 steps. That was your main focus, and your main means of recovery, right? Yeah, I mean, so that's, I grew up, in a Christian home, in a Christian environment, going to church Wednesdays, Sundays. But relationally, I was never dependent upon or tied to, right? It was It was like my parents' God, or the guy sitting to the left or to the right. it was there. I understood it, heard the parables, knew the verse, but I hadn't surrendered. And then it came to a point to where, I was in a treatment facility. Like I just didn't, to the left, to the right. It's like, man, these guys, this isn't me, right? Why am I here? And this one guy that kept coming in that was, he was running an AA meeting style as a volunteer in there. And I just believed him. He was smiling. Man, the guy was free, right? And when you're sitting there looking at him, it's like, okay, what's different? He just said, I need to go to a meeting. And man, it's like I went to a meeting not expecting to find my faith, my true spiritual, my dependency. Wow. But when you go through and you're really going to surrender, it's like, man, what am I surrendering? What am I truly going to surrender to? Now, do I keep it all back? Man, we're not perfect, right? I mean, I fight through the control aspect of life.
Yeah, right.
But, grew up in a Christian home, had all the right things that I needed, by quote, by definition.
Yeah.
But I didn't truly feel the presence of God in a relationship until I was walked through the steps the first time. And, I was drawn to those that I saw the things that I aspired to have, the freedom. What they said was one thing. The way they lived was another in a lot of cases. But those two were matching. And those were the guys that I was drawn to. And man, that's where.
And that's how you modeled your life after looking at, well, I'm going to do the same things you did.
Yeah.
To see if I get the same results.
The old guys in the room by then, man, it was, sit down, shut up. You won't have anything to say, right? You don't have 6 months clean.
Just show you the first page, say, see, this is blank. This is all you know about recovery.
Call your sponsor. You can't talk. Sit there, but man, I was grateful because you literally, it forced me to sit and listen.
Yeah, right.
And look across, and then when someone was living what they're saying, we all fall short daily, man. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
So I'm not picking apart everybody's not saying it's perfect, but you could look and see the freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And it's you look at the first 100 that gathered around, right, in the days in AA, right, the first 100, like 65 or 50 to 60% of them didn't believe and have a relationship with God as they entered into this process,
right?
But came to an understanding and a power greater than themselves through that process, right? And I just think some of it, I just think we've softened it, where we've softened a lot of things, and I'll be honest with everybody that's watching here and you.
Yeah,
I'm often criticized that I'm too black and white and too hard on some things, but at the end of the day,
that's what got you.
That's what has got me where I'm at. That's what has worked. Is, man, it is not pretty at times. And I got some amends I need to make from yesterday, right? That I just need to make them, right?
Yeah.
But that's it's not sternness and conviction is, I think, is often criticized as not being compassionate.
Right.
And man, I'm compassionate. I want everybody to be successful. I want to do anything I can to help you. But man, if you're astray, you're astray. And so it was simple. When I walked in, it was really simple. It was, what are you willing to do? And
if
you
it
start
wasn't
talking,
anything,
and it wasn't, and that's that.
Yeah.
And it's like, we'll say it today, but then, man, it's like you're picking a guy up to because he doesn't have a car to get to a meeting. Well, it's a half a mile. And then have a pair of shoes. That's all right. Walk. It's barefoot. It's only a half a mile.
Right.
And it's something that seems like where we've just softened some things up, but some of it's probably good.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the truth's the truth.
Yes.
And so why do we try to make it something it's not in a lot of cases?
Right. Well, and so you see that when you look at Jesus, right, and the way he kind of walks and navigates, and when you read the Gospels, right, those accounts of him walking this earth and how he talked to people, very direct, very clear, full of this grace and this love, and you could tell that he cared, right? There's like instances where he sees something and it says that he feels for him. It takes empathy. He's sad, but then he's also very clear, like on what's gonna happen, where that person is, how you're here for this, but you say it's this. I'm telling you it's this, and so when we look at Jesus, right, and this is what I think we miss as Christians. we always have this where we're reading the scriptures, and that's great and that's amazing, but we fail to really sometimes take this 30,000 foot view, pull out a little bit and look. And so the overarching concept is, here's this divine creator being who has ultimate authority and power and has set the fabric of life in motion, right? Yeah. Now, that kind of God surely could be like Thanos and snap his fingers and get us all back right. But instead goes through this process of becoming incarnated, to limiting himself to space and time, to the form of a gender, to the form of a baby. And then when Jesus goes through the process, he goes through this formal process. He doesn't start his ministry till he gets baptized. And then when he gets baptized, he doesn't go right to he goes in the wilderness. And then you see him and he walks. And he goes to the disciples and says, come on. And he walks and he goes here and he goes there. There's a process. And he spends 3 years in the streets doing his ministry. You know, the Son of Man could have easily had just snapped his fingers and said, everyone's going to be better now. Matter of fact, I don't even got to get on that cross. But there's a process. And I think when for those of us who are Christians, we sometimes miss that process. And there are a lot of great programs in churches. A lot of churches have a lot of great programs for how do we walk someone through this process of discipleship or renewing your mind. And for those of us who are addicts, you know, and Christian, the 12 steps, in my experience, and it sounds like for yourself too, is the 12 steps have been a great tool into making you a better Christian, right?
I mean, I think so. So it's, and I heard it this Sunday. Kind of a paraphrase. I don't remember exactly who Andy quoted on it, but it was basically saying when you're suffering, you know, the gist of it is when your suffering finds purpose,
yeah,
right, and a reason, and you're able to put it in motion,
yeah,
and you're able to share it in a manner. So the thing is when that suffering has purpose at that point in time. It propels me to be able to do something with it. What did I learn? Why? I know why.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I look at a resurrection, it was, you know, I base my faith not in what the Bible said, but an event that occurred.
Right.
Right. To me, that's a game changer. I can't quote every verse. I can't quote everything, but there was an event that occurred.
Yeah.
There was a man that was crucified, buried, dead.
Yeah.
And was seen after walking amongst the, you know, so when I look at that, then there's another man that was dead internally. Right. Broken down, full of shame, full of guilt, full of remorse, full of everything, just basically a selfish prick. Right. But for over 24 years, it's like, man, it hadn't been pretty every day. Like I have not been a selfish prick at times. Right. But I haven't had to find refuge in drugs or alcohol. Yeah. Because through a process of restoration, through a process of working the steps and working with others and sharing my struggle and putting purpose behind my struggle, purpose behind my pain, I've been able to walk along others. Yeah. And others have walked along me. You know, I may pull some folks from time to time, but there's people that have pulled me and still pulling me. Right. And so from that standpoint, it's like it's a personal relationship with someone else, and it's a personal relationship with me, with my God as well, right? I mean, so, and I found it. I'm grateful for it. I mean, I went to church all the time as a child. Yeah. But I found my relationship with Christ. Yeah. In the rooms. Yeah.
Somebody said last week at the 12-step in Jesus meeting, he said, I was able to find a God of my own understanding, and because of that, I found Jesus. Right. And I thought, oh man, that's the best way to find Jesus.
Without a doubt.
No one told him who Jesus was. He found Jesus. Yeah. You know. So this is just a quick video. We wanted to just kind of cover this concept. You know, and just to be real, like I myself am looking to, I got to go through the steps. Yeah. It's time. I'm noticing things in my life and things in my thinking that I'm like, I want that freedom. And I've been free. I'm a lot more freer than I was, but I know there's more, right?
I mean, there's always more, right? Yeah. If we're real. Yeah. But you realize that today because why?
Well, because I'm going into meetings and I'm meeting people who have this freedom, and I'm going, oh yeah, that's what I want.
So I mean, the thing is, when you think about it, I think anybody. It's just like, you know, I've heard a lot. It's okay. Hey, if you don't believe in Jesus, that's all right. Just imagine if you just live these ways under these teachings,
right,
would your life not be better?
Right.
And so if we take that same approach to the 12 steps, and we say, okay, hey, you're not an alcoholic.
Right.
You're not an addict. Okay, that's all right. But you are a dude or a lady.
Yeah.
If you just live your life
yeah.
according to these 12 steps,
right,
the promises are real.
Right.
And you will feel them and experience them. So to me, it's just a healthy way to live. Now, I still mess it up. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I'm self-aware because of what I have been taught.
Yeah.
And it's generally, you know, if I look at the quality of my life, the quality of my relationships, health and well-being, it's either I'm not doing the things I need to do to maintain as strong as relationships I do,
mm-hmm.
right? And or I'm not being as real as I need to be on some of my stinking thinking, right?
Yeah.
So I love it, man. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Thanks for taking this time.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, that's it. So that's why Christians might want to think about working 12
steps and Jesus. Come in. We'd love to have a conversation with you.